Good evening, everyone. I'm Rupesh. I'm doing this short presentation as part of a presentation for a PhD program, Non Western Education Philosophy and Policy 911 from the Western Norway University of Applied Sciences, Bergen, Norway. And the presentation is on the article written by Francis A.Samuel, which was published in Educational Forum in the year 2010. And the title of the article is Tagore's Vision of International Education, Relevance and Implications for Today. In order to understand Tagore's thought, we need to understand Tagore's life. Tagore had a great vision of international education, and the author of this article tries to explain that his ideas are relevant even today. If we look at Tagore's background and Tagore's life, Tagore was brought up in a family which was rich in art, literature, and religion. His upbringing during his childhood made him more creative, but then he didn't like the British education, which eclipsed the indigenous education of his times. He was first homeschooled. He was, getting this indigenous education. But later, when British education was introduced, where his education in vernacular medium, lost its relevance, or there was no more vernacular education and education which was rooted in Indian culture, he was very much disturbed. And he didn't like, and he looked at it as people sent to prisons, people sent to jails, and there is no creativity, there is no discovery of self. So that's how he looked at that kind of life. And later he was sent to England, but even in England he was exposed to Western life, but then he returned back to India without any formal degree. And then he had his own vision of education, and his vision actually emerged from looking at the world after World War I, where people have lost trust with each other, and especially among nations there was no more trust. And then he conceived a thought to have his own vision, or implement his own vision of education, where he started something called as Shantiniketan. He started his own schools, where Shantiniketan is not like the formal education which was given elsewhere, but then he believed in an education which was, more open-minded, more creative, more a discovery kind of thing, where, there is nothing like closed classrooms, but then under open trees people were educated. And he encouraged excursions, he encouraged exchange programs and all of that. So he started with Shantiniketan. The meaning of Shantiniketan is an abode of peace. Later he also focused on development part, where he started something called as Sriniketan. Sriniketan is abode of development. And later, both of them concretized and have got a shape as Vishwa Bharati, which later has become a university. And Vishwa Bharati was his great treasure. And his idea of implementing this international education is completely different from any of the contemporary thinkers of his age. When we listen to Swati Ganguly, who has recently written a book on book titled Tagore's University, we understand that he is completely different from other contemporary thinkers of India like Ambedkar or Gandhi, who had a formal education outside India, and during their formal education they were able to look at India's place in global education system. But then Tagore is different from them, where he also had this formal Western education, but he also included other Asian countries like China, Japan, in his vision of international education. And the kind of modernity that Tagore conceived or perceived was very different from the kind of modernity others perceived. His modernity was not colonial modernity, but modernity rooted in Indian culture itself. So he focused more on Indian culture. And he, I would like to discuss about something which is very interesting in his, article, uh, where he talks about his kind of educational vision, is multidimensional, where he talks about three concentric circles in this article, where the innermost circle of his education vision focused on India, and the second circle focused on Asian studies, and the third circle focused on international understanding and the world issues. So he completely rejected the colonial way of educating people. Tagore, in this article, Samuel Francis A. Samuel, in this article, speaks about Tagore's international education vision. So he discusses on four implications of international education. And in this curriculum, the first implication is, in this curriculum, what has to be included is how human misunderstanding, lack of communication, and lack of cooperation has done to humanity in the past and the present, including oppression, violence, and war. So this has to be taught as, the first implication of this international education in the school curriculum, where education can concentrate on benefits of international understanding and cooperation. And the second implication that Tagore speaks and Samuel discusses in this article is about multiculturalism. How, more than before, people are migrating to different parts of the world for education, and this, migratory flow or demographic shift should help people appreciate and celebrate diversity and create or cultivate democratic ideals is one thought of this international education. So when this thing happens, there will be no preferred treatment, and it eliminates stereotyping, where we get to know other cultures. We can eliminate stereotyping, negative attitudes towards other groups, and develop more positive attitudes towards other cultures. So this is the second implication. And the third implication is he also focuses, Tagore is also known for environmental issues. He discusses environmental issues and how the abuse and neglect of the world's environment is leading to, where is it leading us to. So he discusses about modern wars, nuclear accidents, acid rain, and deforestation, and how we can encourage students to have love for the nature. So he also talks about how educational institutions should encourage the exchange of international programs, international students, and teachers. So this will be the third implication. And the fourth implication that he discusses about is how we should cherish what connects human beings and celebrate, their common heritage. So he doesn't talk about appreciating diversity alone, but also celebrating commonality. So that is his important vision too. So he finally tries to say that there is a lot of international interdependence, and we can get connected through global consciousness. And It's not only a fact, but according to this article, he says that it is a necessity. So these are the four implications that Tagore talks about. And in conclusion, I would like to read out Tagore's poem where he says that where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So, this is one great masterpiece from one poem from his masterpiece Gitanjali. And we all know that Tagore won Nobel Prize for Literature not just in India for the first time, but in whole of Asia for literature. He won Nobel Prize in the year 1913, and it is through the funds that he has got through this Nobel Prize and the funds that is raised from Maharajas, Tatas, and Birlas. He had this vision of establishing Vishwa Bharati, where people from different parts of the world, like scientists, artists, thinkers, all of them could come and stay there in this small rural place in West Bengal and share their ideas, share their thoughts, and learn and exchange. That was his vision. So this is his vision of Vishwa Bharati. And if you want to read more on Tagore's international education, most of the works are written in Bangla, but if you want to read English translations, Professor Uma Das Gupta's work is one notable work, and Swati Ganguly's new book, as I said in the introduction, that the title of the book is Tagore's University. So it is available anywhere, and this gives a lot of scholarship on Tagore's international education vision. Thank you very much.